Welcome to Making the Cut podcast with Chris Hill and Sean Winter, where we help you succeed in life and business by sharing principles and strategies that guide some of the most successful people in the world.
Welcome to another episode of the Making the Cut podcast. I'm Chris Hill with my co-host, Sean Winter. Today on the show, we have Lauren Zander, coach, consultant, speaker, and author of Maybe It's You, Cut the Crap, Face the Fear, Love Your Life. But before jumping into that, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
If you want to set yourself apart from the competition, for more than 120 years, the name Le Cordon Bleu has been synonymous with culinary excellence. Learn from a team of classically trained chefs with years of experience working in Michelin-star restaurants in the industry's finest kitchens. Study a variety of programs and short courses specialized in the disciplines of culinary arts and hospitality management. Prepare for a career of exciting opportunities and learn more at cordonbleu.edu/USA. And Chris, Lauren created this whole methodology, the Handel method, which is taught in a lot of prestigious universities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All over the world. She works with a bunch of huge clients, Fortune 500, sharing this method on really finding clarity in your business and your life.
And no better time than right now, as we're about to go into 2019, when people are getting ready to start fresh. Do you do New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, I think I started a few of them back when I was like 8 years old, and then since I've thought the idea was a little bit silly. But how about you?
You know, every year I write myself a letter on January 1st, and I exclaim what I'm going to do and any ways that I've grown. And I got in the habit, I think maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I think I was listening to a speaker or something like that who gave that suggestion. But every year I write it down, and I also go back and I read what I wrote from the previous year, which has just become a little tradition of mine.
I love that. I'd be curious to see what her thoughts are.
Yeah. Be interested to see. I'm always curious about that with people. There's always differences of opinion. So let's jump in.
Let's do it. Hey there, Lauren. How's it going?
It's going great.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a real privilege to have you here. You've done some great things in your career, and I'm curious if you could fill the audience in on your backstory and kind of what you've done to get here so far.
Geez. So I was an environmental studies major. I graduated from GW. Had a terrible revelation when I was 24, that I hated the industry. Like, I loved the mission, but didn't like the work. And so at 24, I pivoted into the self-help industry because my funny line that I use is I used to be save the trees, kill the people. And then I figured it out that if the people don't see the trees, I'm in a lot more trouble. And so I was so in the wrong industry. It was epic. And that's when I pivoted. And then, so that was when I was 24, and now I'm 48. And so I went self-help, like I doubled down into the self-help industry. And then the next round was I worked for a company. My joke is I ran away from their screaming, and then figured I'd rather do it myself, like one person at a time, like really figure out how to make change in an individual's life. And so then I really developed my own method. And then that was by the time I was 30. And then started my own company by the time I was I was doing it by the time I was 30, and then wanted to grow it into something else by the time I was 34. And then here I am ever since. And then building this brand ever since.
And so, Lauren, we have a lot of our audience have that kind of entrepreneurial spark, and they want to go all in with their passion, whatever that might be. Can you talk just for a moment about either the resistance or uncomfortability that you faced when you were going out on your own initially, and how you overcame that to get to where you are today, flying solo?
The most important thing that I would say that I had was I had a vision, right? Like, after I started being successful as a single, sole practitioner, right? Which wasn't very hard because it wasn't, the other company that I said I ran away from screaming, I wasn't making very much money there. So to be a coach that beat that job was so easy. It was practically embarrassing, right? If I had 5 clients and charged $150 each, I was making more money than I made working 90 hours a week for that company. Does it make sense? It was like, what? The math? Right? So the math blew my little brains. And then within 6 months, honestly, I had 40 full-time clients as a sole practitioner. And then, so I was incredibly successful as a sole practitioner. And then I was, and then is that it? Right. So then I said this line to myself, what am I going to live and die and and I've done 642 people my whole lifetime and made plenty of money, but really did nothing that really ultimately changed the world. Right. And so then I got crazy about having a mission. And so then once I came up with the biggest mission I could, my mission literally is the same mission I had when I was 32, which was break into universities and teach real life in universities, change education, break into corporations and teach them to care about who they are with their people, and start getting to people to get that there's a whole different way to make money, and it's an alchemy. The greater you are with people, the more honest you are, the more money you'll make. Develop that, right? So I came up with these massive theories that I wanted to prove. And I had nothing to lose. Does that make sense? I had nothing to lose. I already had a nice business. I was good. I had 2 babies. Right. So then everything was about, being an evangelist. And being willing to be embarrassed out of my mind that I said something so huge as I want to change the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you, I guess, go about developing that mindset? Was there a light that switched on for you? And if so, how then have you been able to kind of continue to cultivate that?
The method itself. So, my joke is that my method made me. So.
Referring to the Handel method.
The Handel method. So I have a method that I've been developing since I was 27, right? And then when I broke out on my own when I was 29 and started really doing it. And the method is really that nobody dream. It had some real ideas. No one dreams. No one hears how they talk to themselves in their head. No one keeps promises that matter to themselves, right? I can keep a promise to you, but I can't keep a promise to myself. I won't kill the chicken in me, right? I won't go for, I won't get a no in so everything that's in the method was what I needed first and foremost, and what I was teaching simultaneously while I was pressuring myself to break through.
And so could you give a little insight, because now we've mentioned what this was, just for the listeners so that they can have a little introduction, a little taste of what this is all about at a high level. What is this method that you essentially created?
I break life out into 12 different areas. I demand you have a vision and a dream in each of the 12 areas. The reason I make you do 12 areas is you can't believe how many people hide in 3. Right? Versus that your full life. Where's your full life? We are meant to be dreamers, not chicken shits. Right? And so, but we're busy being chicken shits, right? So in the nicest way I can say that, including me, right? So I make you dream. I make you rate your current life against that vision and explain not only why you gave yourself that rating and what you think is between you and fulfilling on that dream. Right. And then what happens is the minute you start to pull all that out of you, right? So I'm starting to get you into what I call your life story colonoscopy, the way you talk to yourself, the way you sell it to yourself, the way you, your whole inner dialogue has to get out of you so you can start to hear it and separate your higher self from your lower self. Right? Higher self is what you pray to be, hope to be, and can be. Lower self is how you excuse everything and blame anyone. including most highlighting your mother and father and old lovers, right? And throw in a sibling or two. Okay. So, right. And so that isn't, and that's just section 1. Right. And so what I get you to do is realize that in all of that are your theories, your beliefs, your personality traits, and how you limit yourself. Right. So that's section 1. Section 2 is your parent traits. I believe in epigenetics, right? Like you are an apple off that tree. You are a variation of your parents. You wish you didn't have all their traits, and you have all of them. Right. And even the ones you can't believe, you're like, I didn't get that from my dad. And I'm like, my dad is, I cheated on all the women. And you're going, my dad didn't cheat on my mother. And I'm like, oh, yes, he did. Right. And so it's like underneath all of those traits, you are an apple off that tree, and there's shit for you to face about your personality, which you got from your parents. And then I even make you go into your parents' marriage traits, even if they're on their 3rd marriage. Those dynamics I will find in how you're a lover over time. Sorry. And then the final section is haunting memories. Like you think the memories you've collected and haunt you or that you remember don't connect all the dots between those dreams, your parent traits, and how you hold your memories. I'm like, all of that is your lower self. And I can connect all those dots for you so you can have a breakout, right? Like break out of that shit. So I've been developing this method, which has you break into your own inner dialogue, you can truly design your personality, design your life, resolve those hauntings. And then the final kicker that no one likes to face, which is kind of one of my favorite topics on earth, is the way we lie. We lie to ourselves. We lie to others. I have 8 different types of lies, and everyone doesn't resolve how they lie, and then they don't understand why they feel so fake. What? That's the 3-minute version of the method.
That's the gut punch at the end.
Hey!
Listen, look, I'm guilty. I will be the first to admit, they, like you said, people lie to themselves, or they stretch the truth, or they omit, which is a version of lying. Like it happens. It happens.
Happens? That's generous. Again, I have been up. I have been to, because we have never mastered our own inner dialogue, and because our inner dialogue carries all our lies that we are still getting away with and defending and justifying. That's the mafia. That's the gangster. Like your own inner dialogue is allowed to look you in the mirror and tell you look like an idiot. Like it's allowed to say anything it wants to you. High, like you're the best. What's wrong with that person? To the low, like you're fat and ugly. What's wrong with you? Right? Because it holds all your secrets. It holds it like that little voice of reason or that little inner dialogue of yours and all the traits that wrap into it and all your fears that wrap into it. No one has done the dissecting and resolution to why, you're trapped in there with yourself, right? Versus fulfilling on a mission worth having. Getting laid the way you want, getting money the way you want, like getting everything the way you want. You can't because you're trapped by a real serious mafia of your own making. Actually, not exactly of your parents' making too.
Yeah.
But
I think we all, on some level, want to be there. Obviously, I think most folks don't even realize there's the inner monologue going on there. But as it relates to folks trying to navigate through these 12 different dimensions. Are there certain priorities we should place in some, or should we go after the low-hanging fruit to take one from a 3 to a 10, or how do you kind of look at that?
I love one at a time. I really love one at a time, right? And like I do, right? And or 2 at a time, because what happens is most people, it's a perfect time to be talking.
Lauren,
yeah.
Maybe we can just give a quick example. So say I'm not happy in my relationship, which is not true. I just got married and I'm very happy.
Ooh, tread carefully, Chris. Tread carefully.
So say I'm a 3 in my relationship, but I want to be obviously a 10, and I have a certain vision for that. Now maybe you can pick up from there.
So the reason you're a 3, right? You know, first of all, in my book, it explains it. And like in my book, in my method, it's like I've done 20 years of work. I have figured out how to make you laugh and figure it out and read 3 pages. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's really in there. But what to do is the way that, so the actions you're taking and the way you talk to yourself are sleeping together. Makes sense? Like, they're screwing a lot. Right? Mm-hmm. So the way you're talking to yourself. So let's say it's the area of love. We'll take the area of love. And you wish you had the love of your life and you are nowhere near it. Right? But if I ask you the question, when was the last time you got laid? You'll say 3 days ago. Okay. So they have nothing to do with each other. Right. Or if I ask you the last time you got laid, it was 6 months ago and it was, you know, and it made you not want to go back out. You hate fill in the blank. Okay. So what's happening is you have a hangover from your past, and then most likely you've never figured out what the hangover is all about. And then it clouds everything you're doing. You're not on the dating sites. You're not taking the right actions, right? So that your actions aren't working, your thinking isn't working, and your hauntings have got you by the balls. Like they're all connected. And so what I would do is the vision, like that very vision called, I find the love of my life this year. And I've never been happier with someone, right? Like, I can't believe I found him or her. And I can't believe it the sea parted, the world changed. I got everything I ever wanted. Okay. Obviously you can't just be drinking, picking up chicks you don't like and sleeping with them. Right. So it's like, you can't, like if you say you want to run a marathon, right, you're going to have to do the training. You're going to have to pick the amount of time you want to run it in. You're going to have to do the work. So there's a commitment to the actions that connect to the dream. And I have never met a person whose dream was like this epic dream and they were a 4, right? And that their actions were not at the level of a 4. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So it's finding ways to continue to grow and learn what that relationship would look like and how successful people are doing it.
It's more like, so the thing I trademarked in that was hysterical, I could trademark in 2006 was called personal integrity. No one owned it.
Oh, wow.
Is that hysterical? Nobody wanted it in the United States. Nobody's thought of it. So personal integrity is your ability that your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions align, right? So, and that they align with your dreams. What do they align? Like, so your dream is, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to get laid, right? Whatever it is, right? I don't need your dream to be some altruistic dream. I just need it to be your dream. And then the actions are very obvious that you need to take. It's not tricky, right? The odds that the person doesn't know the real actions to take are not so high, right? Go read 600 articles. They could just go listen to your last 10 podcasts, right? It's like the actions are available. It's that a person doesn't have integrity with those actions, right? So you're like, how many women have you gotten married who were dying to get married and were nowhere near a relationship? And I'm like, I can't tell you how many clients we've helped do that. And you're like, well, what did you help them do? Get a vision, get clear about their yeses and nos to what they were looking for, and start swiping. Okay. Like really? That was it? I'm like, yes, you can't find a fish if you're not fishing. Right.
So let me ask, as you've helped tons of people and you've developed this method even, so what's one of the hardest things for people to change? Whether it's their inner dialogue or what is it? It's their
inner dialogue. One, most people can't admit their inner dialogue, right? Like they can't even admit how creepy, obnoxious, vicious, like really vindictive the voices are, right? Like if you don't have a sense of humor, you will never tell on yourself. And if you can't tell on that voice, you can't separate from it. Right? I'm sorry. You can't break up with that bad boyfriend or girlfriend unless you're willing to admit what sucks. Right? And most people don't even hear how much they're talking to themselves. Right? You get can you imagine what women say about their bodies to themselves? And I mean, even supermodels. Right? I have worked with the most beautiful people in the world, and I'm like, they have just as crazy voices as actually people who don't have good bodies. Mm-hmm. It's like there's no matter where you go, there you are. And where you are, you have to be able to admit and realize that there's a dark side.
And is this in line with one's essentially explanatory style? Is it kind of one and the same, essentially?
However, my joke and the name I give, like most people are not themselves. They have their PR agent talking at all times, right? How was your day? How was your, how are you? How's your
meal?
Anything. How do you, how are you feeling? Right? Like there really is canned answers that are allowed for public consumption. It's like one long Facebook life. Right. And so a person can't and that doesn't mean you're like that with your best friend, but you might be like that with your boss, or you might be a boss who's like that with your employee. Right. And so because there's this lying, the world lies and or fake or two-faced, or lots of ways I call it, but your PR agent's out in the world, and then your double agent is in your head. And I really mean a double agent. Against many things in there. And if that can never be revealed to someone, if no one can talk about that, then you can't break it up. And that illusion stays real. And it's an illusion. The whole thing's an illusion.
So Lauren, a quick follow-up to that, and Chris, before you jump in again. So I know that there's no silver bullet, but if someone was trying to move that needle in their own life, what's something, a piece of advice you can give to them to really make that change with their inner dialogue? So you would make a promise that you're really dying to keep, right? You would make a promise, even if it's, whatever it is. Send a love note to someone you care about every day. Something, I want more friends. I want more, I want to go to the gym. I want to work even harder at the gym. Anything at all that will then make you have to hear your own inner dialogue. Does that make sense? This promise, if I kept this promise, I will have to listen to what my goddamn voice is saying to me. And then what you're tracking is the inner dialogue in how annoying it is about keeping that promise, right? The first time I figured out I had the most annoying inner dialogue was I wanted to start running, and I wanted to lose 10 pounds. And I had a promise to go for a run 5 days a week before I went to work, before I started my work, okay? And the trippiest thing would happen. I would wake up before my alarm clock went off to discuss with myself I was exhausted. Now, you understand that's impossible. If you're exhausted, you'd still be sleeping and the alarm clock would barely wake you up. You're like, oh my God, it's a dark side, right? It is literally has an agenda that I don't want to go for a run. Anything but to, you understand? And then my nickname for the voice in my head, that voice is the voice of the brat. You have a chicken voice, you have a brat voice, and then you have a weather reporter voice, which is the voice of generalizations. I'll never be good at it. A weather reporter, generalizes and, has no power. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so what you do is you make a promise, and then you trail your inner dialogue on what a jerk it is about trying to break that promise. And then all of a sudden this is my tagline, which is fight the real war, inner peace, right? Which is get in there, guys. This is serious. And if you can't take it over at the smallest level, right? Go for a run, how are you going to rock much bigger levels?
So it's developing that discipline and determination, knowing that, hey, if I want my life to change, it's up to me. And that's really how you develop the discipline to keep going.
Well, I'm literally talking about the intimacy that you need to shape your own inner dialogue.
Yeah.
If you're not, like, your inner dialogue is you. Like, do you goddamn love yourself? Are you in love with yourself? Do you love being alive? Do you love every area of your life? And if the answer is yes here, but no there, or anywhere, even though I'm rocking here, but I'm still not in love, I'm always nervous, right? Like, there is a way to be in love with being alive. And you got to just kind of admit you're not or you are. And if you're not in an area, then it's the inner dialogue and the actions that need to really have a true adjustment.
Mm-hmm. And Lauren, obviously, and we'll talk. We want you to share a little bit about your book, and everything here in a minute. But also, obviously, you've done a lot of great work as it relates to people out there.
Yeah,
you've been hired by a bunch of companies out there. Fortune 500s. I know there's a bunch of schools, universities, dozens that use the Handel method.
Yeah,
it seems to me, and this is a compliment in the best possible way. I feel like it's just a great way to approach a problem and try and tackle it and solve it.
Yeah, it's for me, it's like the ABCs of self-help, right? Like, this is the basic building blocks. Like, this is math and algebra. Like this is long division. Like, these are the basics that if you understand these basics, what you can do from here is worth everything to you.
Mm-hmm. And I guess,
right?
I guess what I was maybe getting at too is I feel like I could take this same exact method and maybe there's a really unique niche part of my business that's struggling that has nothing to do with me really personally, but the way I'm dealing with the challenge, absolutely. But I could take the same ideology, what's my goal, how am I right now, and what is getting in the way. It's
literally what we do in corporations. There's a shared vision. There's traits of personality, like there's the personality traits that are in the business, right? Like, it's like the very work that I do with an individual is the same work I do in a company, right? The company has hauntings, right? The people together don't have integrity with each other, right? Like, so the very thing you take on an individual micro level absolutely is the same logic that can be applied to a team. Make sense? Or an area. You're completely right.
Cool.
That's how it works. That's how I roll. That's exactly what we're doing.
Love it. And I feel like for someone back to what we were talking about in terms of their inner dialogue, that's very hard for people to change. And you gave some great advice. I feel like there has to be a strong level of self accountability, which I think is hard for people to hold themselves to that level. Do you have any words of wisdom? I mean, especially as we roll into 2019 here, but any thoughts as it relates to that so people can hold themselves to, whether it's that higher standard or that goal, that vision, changing something? What does that look like?
Well, first of all, I never am accountable to myself without a buddy. Like me, like you're like, I always have a buddy holding all of my promises. And I put in consequences, right? So I have 3 kids, right? So for example, this is as true as anything, right? I have, I can have you got 3 kids screaming at each other. I could have a temper, right? And so I have a law that I have to use my words and that I am not allowed to get hot. You understand? Like, I am not allowed to scare the living bejesus out of everybody at all, ever, right? And so the rule that I have is that if I ever lose my shit, I owe anyone in earshot $20, right? And an apology to everyone from my heart. Right. So in my house, if you go, well, how many times does it happen? I'm like, once to twice a year. Right. Now my kids are 16, 14, and 10. But this promise has been intact since, they could talk.
But now they can record it on their iPhones.
Oh, they don't have, it's like literally. So how I create accountability is, one, I have a promise that I want to make, and I have a consequence that holds me accountable, that isn't just like guilt or feel bad, right? So I have a promise to exercise. It's very easy for me. If I don't want to pay money, right? Right. If I want to promise to keep, all I have to do is tell like any one of my children, I'll pay them $20 if I don't keep this promise. Right. Because that little hand is going to outstretch. Mom, did you do that? Right. I like literally built a system into children. But what it's teaching them is accountability. Right. So you're like, so do you go to spin class twice a week, Lauren? I'm like, yes. Right. And I have a trait, like I need accountability, not I'm never planning on getting out of my method. Right. I have promises and consequences, and people holding my promises and consequences, so that I can be true to myself, because I know that I am a lazy shit waiting to happen. What? It's true. I have a sex promise.
I'm laughing because I usually refer to myself as in that respect too. Like I just say, like I'm one day away from just laying on the couch all day. Sometimes I have that lazy bone, so that's why I laugh.
It's I swear to God, it's the human condition, and it's it gives you what a higher self has to be. Right. That lazy is the lower self. The higher self has to come and kick the lower self's ass.
And then I feel like too, going to the gym, it's the value. Yes, the workout is obviously valuable, but I think the real reward comes afterwards, when you know that you could have chosen not to and decided to go instead.
Unbelievable. And then for you, ask me what the most important marriage promise is. In my book. So I've been with my husband, we're on like our 22nd year, and we are freaking happy. Okay. And if you go, what promise is the most important promise in your marriage? And I'm like, a sex promise.
Sounds good to me.
Right. But you actually have to keep it. You have no idea. 3 kids, like anything can come up. Like if you go, where do marriages turn into friendships? It's in the screwing department over time. Right. You can love each other like crazy, but that doesn't mean you keep it hot. Right? So keeping it hot is the most important thing. And I need a promise, because, ask him again. Right? Right? It's nothing personal, honey. I think you're very cute. Yes. But that was 19 years ago.
And 3 kids ago.
Oh my God. But it's not true, because we have a promise together. And trust me, you're like, do you have a consequence if you don't keep that promise? I'm like, yes, we both don't get screen time if we haven't screwed, right? Like, we are serious, right? You're like, what do you want? It's like, welcome to the human race.
I love it.
And for all these, I know we're kind of having fun with this, but for all these, there has to be some sort of why behind it, right? Or at least this is why. Maybe
absolutely, it's the dream. The dream is, I have great love, hot sex, fun with my husband till the day we die. Right. And then it requires, and I want to have a hot body till the day I die. Right. Which means I have to eat right and exercise, which means if I have a hot marriage, I have to have sex more than, twice a month. Right. I have to have it 2 to 3 times a week. That's hot. Right. And then it can't get boring. So then it has to, how do you keep it spicy? Right. So all of those things turn into promises with actions.
And those serve a greater purpose too.
Well, the dream is the macro, like hot, loving marriage. And then what do you do every day to have a hot, loving marriage? Right. What do you do every day? Like, I want an incredible business. Well, what do I do every day to have an incredible business? So there's this macro dream, and then it lives in the day-to-day micro of your life. And those actions and dream, I swear to God, they work well together. And if something isn't working in your life, I swear it's in the 2 plate. Like, there you go. I'll be able to locate it in 10 minutes. So
the last one for me as we start wrapping up is, I I'm curious, do you believe in New Year's resolutions, or do you think that it's one of those things that if you have an inclination to do something, there's no need to wait. You do it now, you do it today.
I make fun of New Year's resolutions. I make fun of them, right? Because if you it's like a Groundhog Day dumb question, right? Like, really? You want to wait till the new year to start the plan for something that you blew off for 4 years now, right? Like, okay, let's just do it today, right? Like today could be New Year's. Okay. Right. So I don't understand. Like, I get it. And I'll take any conversation, but it's the same thing I would teach you November 3rd or January 15th or March 18th, right? Same thing, integrity. If you don't know how to keep a promise to yourself and connect to your dream, that's your problem. And that's the problem with New Year's resolutions is as long as they're a promise with an accountability buddy and a consequence, you're good. But if you don't have those things, the insight and the sad and hope you change, I clap for you, but the odds are not very good. You're going to keep it by April.
Which leads me to my final question. And Lauren, maybe you can talk for a moment about your book. Maybe it's you. Cut the crap, face your fears, love your life. But also, that's part one. And then part two for me is some kind of final words of wisdom to impart on folks as they're kind of getting ready for the new year.
So I'll tell you what I do for the new year. I do a write-up. So I have the same New Year's Eve party every year, which is I write up everything I'm leaving behind. And we have a bonfire, and I get all my friends together, and we collage all night. No shit. Okay, granted, we party a little. Yes, we do. Okay, so we party, we eat well, and then we are going out to a huge bonfire in the middle, at 12 midnight, right? And we bring our collages. We bring what we're burning from last year. We even bring our collage back. Like, how'd you do? Like, you account for your year. And then we invent the new year, like what I'm causing for the new year. And then we literally talk about the promises we're taking on.
Cool.
So that's hot, right? So I recommend you want to do that, like collage, end the year, create a new year. I love one year to the next because I think it's an epic transition, right? Mm-hmm. But it's only good. It's not like New Year's resolutions. That sounds like puny compared to what I just said in my mind. Okay. And so the real thing a person should do is figure out what they're taking on this year and just make one killer promise, like the killer promise, right? Which is I'll give my kids $20 for every time I don't get to the gym, right? Like something that has accountability and a promise, one thing that will really cause you to change. Don't take on everything, take on one thing.
Good stuff. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure and a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. Bye.
So that was our conversation with Lauren Zander. Sean, a lot of good stuff there. What do you think?
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. I love her energy, her way of thinking and breaking down the different dimensions and pulling them together to then create that best version of someone. I think at the very end, an interesting thing to me, a little takeaway that I really liked was how they get together for a bonfire and they take everything and they burn essentially what they don't want to bring into the new year, or they just let go of that. So anything you don't want to bring into the new year, you consciously make an effort to say, I am deleting this. It's leaving my conscious, and you then identify what you are going to bring into that next year. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to use it. I will consciously think about the things that I'm going to leave behind so that they are flush from my mental state. I know when we first started this podcast, I had mentioned about what I do at the first of the year. But I think adding that, what you're leaving behind is something that can be very powerful. So I love those. What about you, Chris?
Absolutely, man. I like she was talking about related to what you just were with leaving things behind and how we can, start to kind of make change in the different areas of our lives. If we're not happy with being a 3 somewhere, what does it take to become a 10? And then committing yourself to that. But, it sounds great, in theory and on paper, but then putting it into practice might be a little bit more challenging. So I think having, a plan and then having people that are going to hold you accountable with what you say and then some sort of consequence for when you don't. I think we all have a tough time with discipline, which you kind of alluded to also, Sean. I think that can definitely help. So a lot of good stuff there. Sean, it's been a fun year of some great episodes here.
It really has. God, it's been a great year.
Well, we just want to thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. And we look forward to rolling to 2019 with you guys. So with that, we're signing off.